Hey everyone, welcome to a belated, by 2 months, book wrap-up. As I was preparing to do my October wrap-up, as you're going to see, I realized that I never uploaded my September wrap-up. Like, I filmed it and I like uploaded it to be edited, but I never did the editing, and now here we are, beginning of November, and I never did a September wrap-up. So instead of going back and re-uploading the entire video, I decided that I would just tack on in the start of this video just kind of my brief thoughts of the books. So this is going to be a collective September and October wrap-up, as well as kind of a Spookathon wrap-up, because Spookathon has completed. Thank you to everyone who was involved. As always, it was a crazy week, but a fun week, and I got a lot of reading done. So this is already going to be a long video, so I'm going to go ahead and get right into it. Also, today's coffee is sponsored by my really cool copper insulated mug. Now, you guys know that I'm not sponsored by anybody, and that's always a joke, but no lie, this is the best mug ever. My husband just got it for me. We just celebrated our 7-year anniversary this weekend, which is the copper anniversary. So he got me a really cool tumbler, and it is like, when I say that I had hot coffee in here at 3 p.m. and it was still steaming at midnight, I am not joking. It has been, like, you probably can't even see. There's still smoke rising, not smoke, steam rising, and I've had coffee in here for hours, so, bottoms up. So super quickly, in the month of September, I read 4 books. I read Love's Executioner by Irvin Yalom. This is a book about psychotherapy. It's not necessarily for therapists, but like, anyone can read it, but I read it from like a clinical point of view. I gave it 4 stars. I like it. It's a reread. I read it when I was in graduate school. Oh, geez. It's a little more existential than I like to be, like, my focus, but I still really like it and appreciate it for what it is. I read Anthem by Ayn Rand. I gave it a 3.5 out of 5. I thought it was really cool. I thought that, like, at the end it kind of got a little too hammer over your head at the point of the book, but I'm glad that we still got there. I read Autobiography of a Face by Lucy Greeley. I cannot find it, and I feel like maybe I sold it back to Half Price Books. I gave it a 3. It was fine. It was an autobiography about a woman who, as a child, had cancer and had surgery to remove like half of her jaw, and so it's like her living her life with like a visible facial deformity. I gave it a 3-star. It was fine. And I read Welcome to Night Vale by Joseph Fink and Jeffrey Craner. It was a library book. I don't have it, so I'm just going to hold up like the sequel / companion novel, which I am going to be reading here in a couple months. It devours, so I'm just holding it as a placeholder. I gave that book a 2.5 out of 5. It was really disappointing because I love the podcast. I did not think that it translated very well to the book. I love the first like 40 pages getting into the world, but then once we tried to kind of establish a plot and some characters, it just sort of kind of fell off the rails for me. I'm still optimistic about this one though. So those are the books that I read in September. Now we're going to get into my October reads, including my Spookathon reads. I'll get to those. In October, let me count. Okay, in October I read 6 books, which it's okay. It's okay. It's what I read. As you guys know, I've not been like reading like a speed demon lately, and it's just kind of how I've been, and that's cool. 6 books in a month is pretty good. Okay, let's get into these ones now. So the first book I read in October is 36 Questions That Changed My Mind About You, written by Vicki Grant. This was an ARC sent to me by the publisher, so thank you very much for sending it. This book is out now. I want to say that I want to say October 17th it was released, but it is available now. It is a YA contemporary romance. It is really cool. It's kind of based on that psychological idea that there's like 36 standard questions that if 2 people answer together honestly, it can help facilitate romance, relationship, love, that sort of thing. So 2 students get paired together to do a study, and it's them in the process of answering the questions, developing a relationship or not developing a relationship. I really like the dialogue and I like the characters. It was visually dynamic because there's a lot of texts and phone calls and kind of like the script style of writing. If you can see how it has like just their name and their dialogue, their name and their dialogue kind of so when they have discussions back and forth, sometimes it's just in that kind of format. So it kind of, because of that, it was a really quick read. I think it had a really good twist to it, but it just didn't go anywhere really deep for me, like emotionally. There was heart there, but it just wasn't really, it didn't get me. So I gave this a 3.5. But it's pretty good if you like the romantic YA, contemporary. I'd recommend it. It is available now. The next one I don't have with me, and I feel so bad because I realized right before I sat down here that it's at work. I lent it to a coworker to read, and I don't know, I think she finished it, but she hasn't given it back to me yet. But it is The Princess Bride, and by William Golding. It is one of my favorite books of all time. It's a reread. I think this is the 3rd time that I've read it. It's a 5 out of 5. If any of you guys are familiar with the movie from the late 80s that came out of the same name, The Princess Bride, one of also the best movies ever made. The book itself is so, it's very much just like the film. In fact, William Golding adapted it to screen, so there's a lot of direct scenes and direct like pieces of dialogue and lines that are exactly like copied from the text. So the story in itself is really, really spot on, but the structure of how the book is written is so different than the movie, and it is genius, brilliant. Some of the devices that he used in that book are just brilliant, and like I've never seen done before. He creates this whole alter ego pseudonym, like personality of him as the author who is inserting himself into like the text. If you have not read the book version of The Princess Bride, I highly recommend it. It is such a good book. It's one of my favorite books of all time. Definitely 5 stars out of 5. And like it's a book that I read through so quickly because it's so funny and so just good. Yeah. And I wish I had to show it to you because I got a really cool edition. It's like a cool black and white edition that I got at Half Price Books a couple months ago. So I can't show it to you, but you guys all should know what that book is. Maybe? Maybe? Ow, ow, ow. Okay, so then we're getting into Spookathon. I read 3 books for Spookathon. The first of which was Fahrenheit 451 by Ray Bradbury. I gave this a 4 out of 5. It's a pretty short book, so it was really good for a readathon and really quick to go through. It's kind of futuristic, dystopian, a future in which firemen don't fight fires, they start fires, and they like burn books and like burn people's houses down if they've been like hoarding books like as punishment. I thought it was a really cool, really fast read. It wasn't one of the best books I've ever read, but I understand why it's important, so I gave it a 4. 4 is a good rating, so 4 stars. Heck yeah. The next book I read for the readathon was A Stranger in the House by Sherry Lapina. I gave it a 3.5 out of 5. This was the buddy read, and myself and the girls talked in depth on our Spookathon live show wrap-up. It's on Kayla's channel, Books and Lala. You all know who she is. You all know who she is. We talk a lot about the book. There's a lot of spoilers in that. Spoiler-free for me here. It's a solid domestic thriller. A woman is in a car accident, and she has amnesia, and they quickly discover that in the vicinity there's a murdered man. So they're trying to piece together, you know, if the amnesia is real, if, you know, she's connected to the death, the murder that's there, you know, why she was in a bad part of town, why she got into a car accident. So it's kind of piecing together that. The ending was like a good surprise, kind of twist ending, but it wasn't a fresh ending. I've seen it done before. So while I had the initial moment of, oh wow, like as far as an ending, I kind of had to follow that pretty quickly with like, okay, but I mean, I've read that before. You know what I mean? I did find that it didn't hold up really well to like analysis and scrutiny, but if you read it through just one time and take it for what it is, it's a good book. The next book I read was the last book that I got through the Spookathon week, and it was The Troop by Nick Cutter, and I ended up giving this a 5 out of 5. I was so surprised because I just happened to grab this book one of the last days that I could from Book Outlet that I knew would ship to me in time because it had orange on the cover and it was horror, and that's the only thing that I had to go off of because I needed it in orange on the cover book. And it's just so crazy how like you just grab a book and it's like fate calls you to it and then it becomes so good. This is a strictly horror book. It's not for everybody, I acknowledge. It's a contagion book. It's a book where contagion or a virus is spreading and it's like decimating the population and people are trying to survive, and it takes place on like kind of an a semi-deserted island. It's just like uninhabited. It's an island, and a troop of Boy Scouts is like camping with their camp leader, their Boy Scout master guy, for like a weekend, and it's the story of that. It is definitely gory, it is bloody, it is graphic, but I love that. It for sure has influences of Stephen King. I could really tell that when I was reading it, and then I kind of looked up the author a little bit after I finished, and he did definitely say that he drew a lot of influence from Carrie. Not subject matter, but presentation and structure, and I definitely could see that. So I mean, I absolutely love this book. I was hooked right away, and if you like horror novels and bloody, graphic, gross kind of stuff, like, you would totally like this book. So I had a little bit of time to read after Spookathon wrapped, and so I was able to get done Turtles All the Way Down by John Green. And look, I found a signed copy. It's not like a surprise. I mean, there's a bunch of signed copies in a lot of stores that I've seen. I think it's just part of like a marketing campaign for the book. I'm trying to find the signature. Where is it? There it is. John Green, and it's in a green marker. That probably wasn't intentional. I gave this book a 4 out of 5. It's about a girl, Asia, and she has clinical anxiety, OCD with intrusive thoughts. She is diagnosed. It is visibly disruptive to her life. It was very cool to read a book about somebody who has actual anxiety, actual OCD. The media and television and books and movies are also saturated with people who like to make claims of, oh, I have OCD, I'm so OCD because I like to do XYZ, and it's not, like, that's not what OCD is. It is a disruptive part of your life. It's not a fun thing to joke about, and so it's so frustrating to see people that always like want to almost faux brag about how like it's like fashionable to like have OCD, and it just bothers me, and I think this is a really good presentation of that. I generally like John Green novels. I usually give them like a 4-ish. That's kind of what I'm giving this book. It had a lot of John Green elements to it. My cat's walking up on my books if you see her. It had good characters. It had an active plot. The plot was a little bit scattered at some points. I feel like it could have used a little bit of editing, but I think it has that John Green quirky factor to it, and that's kind of why some of those weirder plot things existed. Near the end, it had some, like, it took some lofty philosophical leaps. Like, John Green tries to be really philosophical, and he tends to make his characters seem way too intelligent and way too, like, old for their age, but that's just something that he does in his books, and he did it with this book. It didn't totally bother me. It just didn't, like, connect with me in an emotional spot like I think it was kind of meant to. But I always say with John Green, if I was 5 or 10 years younger, I'd probably love it a whole lot more, but I gave it a 4, and that's a good rating. So, you know, I would probably read anything else that he comes out with in the future. I like his stuff, but that's kind of where it ends. So for the most part, this is what I read in September and October. Of course, adding 2 books that I don't have, and then replacing that with Welcome to Night Vale instead of the sequel. So decently got some stuff read. Let me put this down. That is everything. Let me see. What kind of question do I have for the end of this video? Okay, I got it. What is your favorite book by lately? What's a book that you've got your hands on and that you just like love? Maybe you've read it, maybe you haven't read it. I'll give you a little sneak peek as to what mine is, because let me tell you, I am so overdue for a massive book haul. I am like 3 months behind on a book haul, but this is the star this week. Oh God. Oh, there it goes. Bye-bye. All right. Bye-bye, guys. See you later.